Okay, and welcome back to the Cummins Chevy project here. Got a few things going on today. First one here, we went this morning to the local junkyard, found a good used two-wheel drive steering box. This is needed as the splines are what will work with the crossover steering that I ordered. That should be here later this week, so I'll go ahead, get this old Pitman arm off, get it cleaned up and degreased, and we'll get that put on hold here for the new components. And also you can see we got it jacked up, got the rear tires off, and got the rear drain pan off to get all the oil out so we can put our Powertrax Locker in. Now this is a lunchbox style locker. It is a step up from their True Track locker, which is more of the off-road version. This one's supposed to be a little more street friendly. They typically sell for about $530 from Summit Racing. I was lucky enough to find this one on the sales rack for $300. So I couldn't turn that down. So we got our instructions printed out, and like I said, we got our differential case off. So our first step, since everything looks good, is we're going to go ahead and put some scribe lines on this adjusting nut, which is hard to see here, but it's got the holes, and we want to put a scribe line on its location to the casing. And then we also want to mark our end caps on each side so that we go ahead and put them exactly back on how they came off. So I'll go ahead and put the lines on, and we'll loosen these and pop out the differential. Okay, and we also went ahead and pulled our axles out. Got both of those laying right there. So we'll move back to the differential. Okay, so now we can start to get the lock ready to assemble in there. So what they have you do is they make sure that these teeth, this center ring here, is lined up with the splines as shown, and if not, you can use this coupler driver here to put it in there and spin it as needed. So here's the picture where they show it to you. So we have done both of ours, and now we got to apply wheel bearing grease to these teeth surfaces, and then also here's a bunch of little saddle springs, and in the driver you can see there's holes. So we got to grease these springs up, we'll put them down in those holes, and then we'll start to keep assembling. Okay, now with the couplers, which is what they call this whole assembly, greased up, and we also have our yellow springs greased into the drivers. Now in these drivers there is a notch on the one side that will line up with this one gap right here. So we can go ahead and set one of the couplers down into the case halves, and we will align this gap with that wide gap there. Okay, so we got both halves and the drivers in there. I got the pinholes lined up on each of the cases. And I also made sure that these pins in each half are 180 apart. And then I also made sure that where they're 180 apart at will also line up to where the marks are for the cases to go back together. And over here, I got the center sections. I put oil on these, fresh gear oil. Put the center section ready in, and we can drop that. Okay, well, I actually got a little ahead of myself here. Before we can assemble the both halves, we need to assemble everything in one half, and they give you what this call is a gauge ring. What we'll do is we'll put this on this half here. We're going to temporarily assemble the cases, and then they give you this go no go gauge. It's rectangular, so it should go in one way and not the other, and that makes sure that the clearances are right for the case to operate. So with those both assembled on one half, we can go ahead and temporarily set this back on there the way it came off, check our marks, and sit it on there. Now obviously it isn't going to go all the way together because we got that spacer ring in there. So what we're looking to do is, like I say, it's rectangular. It should go in one way, which it does, and it does not go in the other way. So we'll check a couple spots here. And I think we are good to go. All right. Now we can take it back apart. We will take out that gauge ring and we will do our final assembly. Okay, since our gap checked out okay, the only final thing to do is move it so you can see it. They give you these inner springs. There's two. You put the little one inside the big one and set them down in the case here. And same thing with this other one. Set it down in the case. Now I'm going to have to set it upright so that I can, and then we're going to do just what we did here to disassemble it. We're going to put the cases back together just the way we took them apart. Making sure that that pin lines up over here. Hopefully it doesn't fall out here. The grease holds it in there pretty good. Make sure our two halves are lined the way they came apart. Where's my marks? There they are. And we're just slowly set it down on there. And now we're just ready to put our bolts back in, torque them down to 120 foot-pounds, and we'll reinstall our differential. Okay, and with everything buttoned back up, we got our cheap old bald set tires here on, and I think you guys can all tell what that's for. But before we go any further, we need to test to make sure that it's working. So you can see I got the driver's side wheel blocked. I can't move this wheel forward. But if you give it a quick jerk, that'll unlock the unit. You can freewheel and then locks. So I did that to both sides. Everything seems to be working. All I gotta do is put some oil in it, and we need to take our first test drive. Okay, and that concludes the installation of the Powertrax Locker. I have about 30 street miles on it now, and it does pretty well on the street. You hear it catch every now and then in a corner, but no major issues. It's predictable and really easy to drive. And other than the first time that the burnout test didn't lock up, I tried it several other times and it's been consistently locking up, so really happy with that. The install time total, it could be done probably in a couple hours, depending on how fast you work and stuff. I took my time, made sure I did it right. And the video work takes time, so no big deal. But everything now in the rear end is buttoned up. You can see the traction bar assemblies and everything. So as soon as we get our crossover steering, we'll get to work on that. But overall, really happy with the project.